Hello, Modern here. Today I want to show you the update for my Lightning Storm companion build. Now I personally think it's the best Lightning Storm build currently out there without having to use the Tempest Draw unique. Yes, I know that's a lot to digest. I didn't expect this one, but Lightning has difficulty scaling its damage with more multipliers. Shepherd's Aspect works for all companions you have, meaning 2 creepers, up to 4 ravens and 3 wolves. I know, I tested this one just for ravens, but I made some miscalculations or my sample size was not enough, but I tried it again with all companions on my bar, went into the dungeon and suddenly crit for 700k plus, which is insane. So there's a few more changes since we are using wolves and poison creeper and our ravens. I also had to drop bulwark because I noticed it was completely irrelevant that I had bulwark. When I got to seed, I was dead anyway because I was in a bad position. This game is all about positioning. So we don't have an unstoppable on our bar. We still cleared a tier 60 dungeon, basically by using the Exodia combo. We poison creeper enemies, then we petrify, then we apply vulnerable with ravens, and then we blast. And we blast for a huge amount of damage. Now I will go over the exact changes for this build in a while. The Paragon Board, for example, didn't change at all. So only a few things in the abilities changed and a few aspects moved around, but nothing that you will miss out on. Let's dive into some gameplay first. I will comment over pre-recorded footage because it's easier to explain what I am doing while I am not concentrating on the gameplay, because this build needs a lot of game knowledge. You need to know which enemies are dangerous to you, which enemies have a large hitbox on their melee attacks. For example, there's a gigantic dude that has basically a suppress field around him, and that's his melee range. So you step into his suppress field and he just one-shots you. So you need to think about approach versus such enemies. You need to dive in with a cool mind and to know what you want to do, what you want to achieve with this life, because you're going to sacrifice lives. We have 4 attempts, right? So with those 4 attempts, we can clear out packs that otherwise wouldn't be able to possibly be cleared. But I will go over the gameplay now. So let's start with level 55 dungeons. That's 13 levels above our character. Enemies are, I think, level 109, yes, level 109. And we start off with a nice, neat Exodia combo. As you can see, we deal quite a lot of damage in this time frame. In the next one, we kited enemies back into a corridor, into a tight corridor to nuke them. We always want to do this, so whenever you see something like this, you want to pull enemies back into them, because our damage will increase exponentially. The next clip is a very, very dangerous mob pack. We have 2 enemies that summon wind walls that freeze us. We got frozen 1 time here. There is no diminishing returns on further CC. So we did make a slight mistake by turning back into the suppress mob to get this one done. We get frozen another time, right back to back. So dropped to dangerous levels of low life, but did manage to get out unscathed with our huge amount of damage reduction and HP. Next, I'm going to go over level 60 gameplay, so 5 levels above. Enemies are 114, so quite dangerous. In this case, there is 1 enemy that's providing enemies with damage reduction. I didn't see it at first, but then located it. So I needed to rotate back to it to get a more favorable position and cleared out the whole pack without much issue. So in the next clip, I wanted to showcase a bug that can happen. Your lightning storm can get stuck on the animation and you need to cancel it out. The next pack here was Ohm because of that bug and needed to fish for the Earthen Might proc. We got it with our Earth Spike and we then cleared out the pack without much issue at all. So in this next pack, you need to watch out for enemies that suicide bomb you. We Exodia comboed this pack specifically for that, to not lose our life. So the next pack is one of the most dangerous I have thought in this complete dungeon. We have 1 fire hour enemy that explodes in constant bursts, which deal quite a lot of damage, so we wanted to separate it. I kited back those enemies, specifically the suppress enemy, but didn't want to get in range, just wanted to clear out the small Thother. This was because they deal quite a substantial amount of damage. Now, sadly, we couldn't Exodia combo this pack, there was just too much going on. So I always tried to get back into the range of the suppress and try to fight them like this, but sadly didn't work out. So I decided to just sacrifice 1 life to nuke that suppress enemy to get more maneuverability back. Then I went back just to the same pack and wanted to take care of the fire explosion enemy. This one is still dealing quite a ton of damage and has a lot of attack range. Basically the suppressed radius we saw before is also covered by this enemy, so we need to stand back at the edge and fight them. Now luckily we did manage to clear out this pack and went on through the whole dungeon. I died 3 more times. This was due to on-death effects from enemies. They have no indicators there. And for the last one, we had a lucky shrine at the end and just cleared out the whole thing without much issue. The basic rotation, so we want to use our Poison Creeper defensively as much as possible to bind enemies in a position that is favorable for us, and then we blast. We also apply the poison, so this buffs our damage quite substantially. But most importantly, Poison Creeper can be used defensively and offensively. It is a very strong ability and we want to utilize it whenever we can. Now, next let's go over the changes. For the helmet, basically nothing changed. We have the same helmet. For the breastplate, we have a better disobedience. This one has 50% instead of 40%. For the gloves, we did change. We have basically best in slot gloves here. I know the rolls are not maxed, so the stats are best in slot. We also lack a little bit of item power, but that's about it. Now, for the imprint, I have chosen accelerating. This has 2 reasons. First, we critical strike all the time, so it's basically 25% increased attack speed for every action we have. Now, action speed is determined by the attack speed. Meaning we can get our Poison Creeper out faster, we can get our Ravens out faster, we can get our Petrifier out faster, and we can also Earth Spike a lot more often. Because 25% increased attack speed will affect this substantially. This one has a positive multiplier. I think it's 1.25 to the base attack speed, multiplied by the base attack speed of your weapon, multiplied by the increases. So it's basically attacking a lot faster than before, just with this one aspect. This will allow us to fish for those Eremite procs, because those Eremite procs will enable this build. You don't really want to regenerate your spirit with just Earth Spikes. You want to target specific enemies, root them with a Poison Creeper if you have no spirit, and then you just spam your Earth Spike to get your spirit back up. That's the solution to your spirit. You're stacking Lucky Hit and then fishing for those procs. If you do not like this gameplay style, and you do not like going out of spirit, this build is not for you. It is a builder and a spender. Sometimes when you are in a map with a lot of enemies, you're going to be able to just spam your Lightning Storm and proc those Eremite procs without having to fish for them. Because there's a lot of enemies, you're going to Lightning Strike them, and each and every single instance of a Lightning Storm hit is going to roll for the Eremite proc. This is not possible when there is only like 4 or 3 enemies running at you, and you only have 1 chance because you're going to one-shot them. Now, back to the gear. For the pants, I have gone with the Protector aspect. This one gives us a barrier, a very strong barrier that's not based on the base life of our character, so much better than Earthen Bulwark, for 10 seconds, and it has a 30-second cooldown. We also have the implicit modifier that we get 30% of our maximum life as a barrier whenever we use a potion. The barrier that is applied by those pants, by this implicit modifier, is not based on the base life of our character, but the maximum life. So again, much better than Earthen Bulwark. We have damage mitigation on demand. So it's healing 35% of our maximum life, plus 1200, plus it's giving us a barrier that's basically 3,000 to 4,000 thick. This implicit modifier is extremely strong, and I would advise to go for this one with every single build. Now, the stats didn't change at all, so just with the other ones, go for total armor, damage reduction on your chest and on your pants. Boots also didn't change. However, the unstoppable Ghostwalker aspect is completely useless. Now I have the one that gives you 16% movement speed on crit. However, I would prefer to not override this one because it's extremely rare. At max roll, 25% movement speed increase on the unstoppable Ghostwalker aspect is exceptionally rare. So I'm currently searching for another pair of boots with movement speed and intelligence, because we need those intelligence points on those boots to get all our Paragon points unlocked. Weapon didn't change at all. Totem did change. We now have the companion aspect on this one instead of the barrier one. The barrier aspect was not doing us any favors currently because we do not have constant uptime on the barrier. Yes, it was a nice boost to our damage, but I think this one is better. 3 companions translate to 36% nearly permanent increase to our damage, a more multiplier. So it's nearly strictly better than the 25% you get only when you have a barrier up. Otherwise, the stats on this one didn't change. For the band, we are currently using the Rune Workers Conduit aspect. Now, I shit on this aspect relentlessly because it was bugged and the trigger time, the frequency of the lightning strikes didn't work properly. Now, this one is a 801 item power one, so the base damage is extremely high. We also have a very low roll on the timer increase, but that's basically nothing to worry about because when we use this aspect, we are stacking up basically an infinite amount of duration on this one that doesn't reset when you leave or enter a dungeon. So once you start stacking this one, you have permanent uptime on this one, and it's striking every 0.35 seconds, I think, with a lightning bolt that deals a ton of damage. So the Rune Workers Conduit aspect is very, very strong. Now the Overcharge aspect is not bad. If you do not have a very high roll on the Rune Workers Conduit aspect, meaning 800 plus, you want to use the Overcharge aspect. The Overcharge aspect can be applied through the Codex, so it's more consistent damage per level, basically. So you can just replenish your damage on this one. So basically every 5 to 6 levels, you can just go to the Occultist and recraft it. This one, not so much. You need a really good ring, you need a really good conduit, and then you slap them together to get this one. For the other ring, we now have Earthen Might on it. Yeah, and for this one, I was experimenting with something else, so I needed to recraft the aspect here, so it's not 12% anymore, but 11.3. Doesn't matter at all, we are still dealing a ton of damage. The Envenom passive is also doing quite a lot of work. For the Spirit Boon, we have 2 choices to make. The first one is, do you want more life? Because this one is going to give us 1000 life. Yes, it's exactly 1000 life. Iron Feathers is really great because it's a more multiplier to your health. It's a multiplier. So after you apply your flat increases to your health, you're applying this one. And then you have Scythe Talons. If you're pushing lower difficulties, I would advise going with Scythe Talons. For higher difficulties, go with Iron Feathers. Iron Feathers will make sure you're not getting consistently one-shot. With 1200 life, we are quite tanky, right now at least. This will also increase the barrier to regenerate through our health potions, and it will help us survive hits. Small hits, big hits, doesn't matter. All hits. For the abilities, we didn't really change anything here. We have maxed out Predatory Instinct. We don't have any Bulwark stuff. We have 1 point in the Wolves. We have 3 points in the Ravens, going for Ferocious Ravens. We changed 1 point from Endless Tempest to Charged Atmosphere. Didn't change anything here, didn't change anything here, and we picked a Petrify instead of the Elven Bulwark. So that sums up the skill tree. For the Paragon Board, I didn't change anything at all. It's the same Paragon Board as before. So if you're unfamiliar with this board, go to the other video, my base complete guide, and watch the Paragon stuff, because the Paragon Board was already pretty optimized. So there is nothing that changed here. Anyway, that sums up my update for this build. I will try to push it a little bit higher because I am having fun with this build and I want to see how far I can get. I would also comment on Nightmare Dungeons because I have some gripes with it and want to voice my opinion on this one because goddamn, some modifiers are complete garbage. Suppressed modifiers, cold modifiers, some enemies are extremely overtuned. Like the disparity between one dungeon and the other in the balance department is insane. Like you clear a level 56 dungeon completely fine in one instance, then you go into another dungeon and you get constantly one-shot because of modifiers? No, because the enemies are badly balanced. They have insane hitboxes with their melee attack, so you cannot get into range at all because your screen is zoomed in. Wait, I'm rambling. Next time. Anyway, see you next time and bye.